Hey guys, it's Kelsey. I'm back with another scrapbooking process video, and this is layout 3 with my Felicity Jane Aspen collection. I know you've seen a scrap 5 between the last one I did and this one, but this is a third one I'm making with this collection, and I kind of went into it thinking, okay, the last two pages were kind of similar. I liked using the navy and mustard color scheme. The last one I really tried to make more multicolored, but I really went into this one like, okay, like this one for real is going to be a super multicolored layout. And because I used two 12 by 12s on the last page, I kind of wanted to see if for this one I could get away with using none of the Felicity Jane 12 by 12s and use pretty much scraps. So I pulled in a lot of papers from the 6 by 6 booklet that came with this collection, and I'm gonna try to see if how much I could get used up and if I could create this page without pulling from the 12 by 12 stash. So you see right away. I got two info cards in the 6 by 6 pad, and so I'm thinking I can cut apart all of these patterns and see if I can't make a cool design with them. I'm thinking about pulling in scraps from 12 by 12s, but as I get going, I actually exclusively use the 6 by 6 paper. So I'm really excited about that. I'm thinking about using these info cards like this, where it looks like one long, kind of just one long pattern of stripes. But I was getting stuck using it like that, and I thought it would be way more interesting if I cut all of these different pieces and did something different with them. And I really like this idea. Something you could do with the 12 by 12 little info title page too. But I really liked this idea for both of these little 6 by 6 pieces because I could do something cool that adds some texture with all of these little bits. I remembered the last time I had Felicity Jane, I used this info card on the top and the bottom of the page. And then designed within the middle section. So I thought it would be cool if I did something like that again, but took a different kind of twist on it. And because I have all these smaller pieces instead of one just group, when they're all stuck together still, I thought it'd be cool to have varying heights and just stagger all of these scraps along the top and bottom of the page and do something cool with it. So you can see me experimenting. I'm kind of thinking maybe I could stagger them across the middle, and then that could be the base for my layers. But as I started messing with it, I was like, I don't know how to do this where I wouldn't cover up too much of this to where you kind of lose that cool effect. So I was thinking, how can I do this kind of thing where I'm not covering it up? And that's when I kind of decided, oh, like if I staggered them on the top and bottom of this page, then I could design within the middle of it like I did the last time I used Felicity Jane, and then you can see all of these pattern papers and all of these little bits. So I'm deciding to kind of glue them all onto this scrap piece. That way I kind of have them on one piece of paper. That way it's easier to move them around. So I'm gluing them all onto this scrap here, and you can see me staggering them. I'm trying to make sure all of the patterns and colors are kind of dispersed evenly. And then once I have them all glued down to this middle section, I will cut it through the middle and then have one piece on either side of the page. And I really like that. As soon as I thought about it, was like, that is like a really good way to use these info cards, because a lot of people don't really know what to do with them. Sometimes they just end up being garbage. But I liked this concept for anything. If you have 6 by 6 paper pads or just a lot of scraps in your 12 by 12 books, this is a really good technique to get a lot of the smaller scraps used up. So I definitely was happy to showcase this technique because I think it's really fun. So I think I'm almost done gluing them all down here. And then you'll see me kind of trim it through the middle. I pulled in a white 12 by 12 from my stash as the background. That way I didn't have to use any 12 by 12 from Felicity Jane. I knew if I was really going to do this and it's going to be multicolored with all of these small bits of pattern and color, that I was wanting to work off of a white background. That way it kind of gave your eye a place to rest, because different elements on this page can look a little busy like this. So I wanted to make sure there was good balance between the white space and the design. So I'm going to glue all of this down, but you can see that kind of gives you a really cool format to work off of. It was just shy of 12 inches, so I had a little gap on either side, but you do have that black and white polka dot on the Felicity Jane branding strip as well. And so I did just use that extra branding strip to kind of fill in the gap on either side. So once I get this glued down, I'll go in with the white and black and just beef it out a little bit. So you can see I'm going in there with that. So that also makes me really happy because it's another piece of garbage essentially that I got used up. So that always makes me happy. So once I kind of get this polka dot on all four corners where there's a gap, then I can go in with my actual design. You can see the two photos to the left there. So this is documenting the rehearsal. So one photo is my brother walking me down the aisle for us to do our little rehearsal of the wedding. And then the other photo is me and Marcus at the rehearsal dinner. So because Henry's Louisiana Grill is like one of my favorite restaurants, you guys have heard me mention that on like birthday pages and stuff, because usually I only get to go to Henry's on my birthday because it's my favorite restaurant. It's the one I always choose. And so I kind of was wanting Henry's to be the rehearsal dinner because we had a lot of people coming in from out of town, and I really wanted to share that restaurant with them just because it's one of my favorites, and it's not something that I think many of them would have had the chance to experience that type of food. It's like beautiful, authentic Cajun food. I mean, we always have alligator as an appetizer, and it's so good. And this pasta I always choose this ooh la la entree. But anyways, they don't have party reservations on the weekend because they're so busy. So long story short, we couldn't do that for the wedding reception. But I chose to do it as the rehearsal dinner location because most of the people who came in from out of town were like my godparents and Austin, of course. So we went there for the rehearsal dinner so they could still experience it and we could still eat at Henry's, but then we went somewhere else for the actual wedding reception. So I definitely wanted to document both of these. I'm trying to figure out, you can see how I want to do these layers. I'm thinking maybe I will kind of layer the photos together and just kind of layer up papers behind them as one. But because I have created this kind of space in the middle and I have two photos and not one, it's kind of hard to use the scraps and really design how I wanted to. I just kind of felt like it was cramped and it wasn't a good use for my resources because I'm trying not to have to cut into another 12 by 12, but having these two photos layered together, it kind of makes it difficult to layer around them using just my scraps. So what I decided to do is instead of have them lay together, you can see I even tried to squish them down really tight to make them able to mat on a 6x6. But even that, I kind of felt like I wasn't working well. I was kind of having to cram it together more than I would have liked to try to make it work. I really wanted to use this scrap of the pink and white doodly grid. But in the end, I decided to do something super different, which again, I'm glad. I really wanted this page to look different than the other two because the first two I did this month were very similar. So instead of matting them together and trying to do the type of matting and layering I usually like to do, I decided just to separate the photos all together and have them come in from either side of the page. Which I thought is really cool. So I struggle a lot with trying to figure out these layers. You'll see me move them around a lot, but once I finally decide what I want to do design-wise, it really takes off. So I've now decided I really want to use this 6x6 pattern that's navy with pink hearts on them. I thought out of all the little kind of patterns that were in my little strips, that's the one that stood out as one I wanted to incorporate. Obviously, I love the hearts because we're in the wedding season, wedding events with the reception, so I definitely feel like hearts go. So I'm definitely thinking that 6x6 will be my main layer once I can finally decide what to do. But again, I was getting stuck, and I was starting to layer the same way I did on the other ones with this journaling card coming out of the side. So I decided just to mat both photos on white because I knew I would probably at least do that no matter what. But eventually I kind of realized like I need to completely switch gears and change the way I'm designing this. Yeah, because it's just too cramped, and I don't want any of my wedding pictures for me to be covering up important parts of the photo. Granted, that part of the photo I was covering up was just the empty church, but still, it looked too crowded, and I'm like, these are not events where I want the photos to be crowded because they're important. So I get stuck for a minute here. I'm just staring at it, trying to figure out what to do, how I can like it better. Like maybe if I just add more, it'll start to make sense. But yeah, I guess I probably should trim some of this out, but sometimes I think it's good for you guys to see the middle portions. A lot of times I edit out the times I'm just staring at my layout, kind of not sure what to do. And when you take all of those out, when you do your process video, it kind of just looks like I know what I'm doing and I make all these decisions right away. And like sometimes I do, but a lot of times there's times like this where I'm just staring and fiddling and not liking what I'm doing. And then I eventually will figure it out. But I think it's good to see kind of my process, and it's not always easy. Because I feel like when I started watching process videos, I'm like, oh, they just make it look so easy. They know what to do and they just do it. And you don't get to see the behind the scenes stuff where you're just staring at it. Again, I'm trying with these multicolored pattern bits because I'm like, well, this is a more multicolored layout. Maybe I can get these 2 pocket cards on here now. And then I was kind of thinking if I did go with this design, there's these 2 open corners of the 6x6. So I'm like, well, maybe I could do embellishment in both of those corners to kind of fill out those little gaps, which I didn't hate the idea of. It just, with how busy the kind of border strips look on the top and the bottom, I really kind of felt like all of these like it was just looking suffocated. So yeah, I don't know how much more I struggle with this before I kind of really change gears, but I'm really trying to make myself like this design, because part of me just automatically likes to put my photos together and then work that way. So it's kind of difficult for my brain to even come up with the concept to separate my photos and have them on separate sides of the page. So I don't know what inspired that, but I was like, I really need to fill up this narrow middle section of the page with both of these photos in a way that doesn't crowd them. And so eventually when I separate them, I'm like, oh, that already looks so much better because they're not all crowded. So yes, this already, I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like I can breathe looking at this. It's not all crowded together. So I'm thinking I'm going to have this blue and pink heart paper run off the edge of the page, have that one photo kind of there, and then I'll do the same with the scrap of that heart paper that runs off. I'll move to the opposite side and we'll have the other photo branching out from the right. So I love that. It's super different. I don't know how I came up with that, but I think it was born out of necessity because of the size of the papers I was using and the issues I was having originally. I definitely want to get another scallopy fringe piece on here. I would say I'd want one on every page this month, but I think I got 5 or 6 of those scallopy pieces, and I'm hoping to get more than those pages, that number of pages done with this collection. But for right now, I'm still trying to get them used up. So I'm thinking because the heart paper has kind of the darker pink hearts, I would use the darker pink scallop bit. There is a lighter pink. I'm going to save that for another page and use the darker pink on this one. And so now I'm just trying to trim up. And again, I'm gutting this 6x6 because there's a chunk of it covered up by my photo. So I can use that as well. They're double-sided, so the back side is that multicolored stripe you saw on the second layout I did. So I definitely want the those saved as layers for later pages. But I wanted these staggered. I want them to look interesting on their own, but then kind of meet in the middle, which I thought was really interesting. This is a way different way that I like to design because I like everything to kind of be connected. So I'm thinking with these heavier items with the photos and this dark pattern paper on either side, it kind of gives me freedom to do some light embellishment to kind of connect them in the middle that way. So they still communicate, but it's more open and it doesn't feel as crowded. So because I had more of the pattern paper on the left photo and less on the right, I'm having more of the scallop branch out on the right than the left. And so I'm kind of creating similar but not identical layering for both of these photos. And then I definitely want to embellish with multicolored items. So this is nice because it's giving me a chance to use up a lot of the multicolored stuff that I probably would have issues using otherwise. So I don't think I've gotten to the embellishment part yet. I'm just gluing everything down because I'm really liking the placement here. I finally feel like I have a direction for my design. But you can see the ephemera all to the left there, my little sticker sheet. I have the chipboard hearts. That will definitely be a finishing touch on this one once I get there. But I'm just happy. I'm so much happier with this design than how it was originally. So now that I kind of have this, the scallop already branches out from the photo, so it really gives me a nice spot to start embellishing. So I'm thinking I'll have embellishment on both of those areas, and that will again help bring the two photos together and kind of meet in the middle here. The one of them, because I have the blue pattern paper, the pink fringe, I'm going in with a yellow label sticker, and then that kind of pulls in a lot of the colors. I'm pulling in the stack of books because those are multicolored, kind of has all of them, and you can see I'm kind of toying with some other bits here, but I'm just trying to make sure as I compose my little embellishment cluster that there's some multicolor elements that tie back to the banners on the top and the bottom. So I'm pretty happy with that. Since I pulled in a yellow piece on the left there, I'm pulling in a yellow tab on the right, and then I'm using the little love speech bubble to layer up on top of that. And that love speech bubble and the stack of books, both I popped up on some foam, so they had some dimension, which is really nice. And then I didn't want to overcomplicate the layering. I kind of liked how simple but effective what I put down there was. But I still needed something here to kind of bridge the gap. There is still this empty space in the middle that I really wanted to connect both of these areas. So I knew I still needed my title, and I definitely wanted journaling to say where I was. But once I pulled out these freckled fawn tile alphas, I realized I could kind of do my journaling as my title. So I'm just making sure I have all the letters. I'm laying them all out on my ruler so I can see space-wise how long all of these letters end up being, or words. That way I can properly put them down on the page and space them correctly the first time. Because whenever I try to put these tile alphas directly onto the page, I end up spacing them wrong, and I hate having to repeel these all back up. So now that you can kind of see the length of all the words, I'm trying to move the ruler around to see where they fit best, and they fit best right between my two clusters, which was nice because I was really wanting that one element to really connect both of them. So I'm using my journaled title in the space between these two areas. It just says rehearsal and dinner at Henry's, and that way I kind of have everything I need right there. I don't have to journal. That says everything. I really like that it brings that mustardy color down to the bottom, because I feel like that was the one color that was kind of lacking with the pink and blue elements that were on either side. So that really helps for me bring in that last color to really tie in the multicolored feel and balance it all out. So I'm getting the title down, and at this point I'm kind of thinking, or I was thinking I was done with embellishing, but as I was looking with it, or at this page, it still just seems like the upper left hand corner above that left photo just still seemed too plain. So I wanted one more cluster up there, but I didn't really have any pieces from this collection I was wanting to use over there. So I went through my my kind of Felicity Jane leftovers. So all of the scraps from previous How to Kill a Kit with Styles for Felicity Jane, I put all in a baggie together and I leave them to the side for instances like this where I'm using Felicity Jane. I'm kind of not seeing what I need in the products I have. Felicity Jane products coordinate really well. So I went to my stash and pulled in a couple of these little baggies of leftovers that I didn't get used up to see if anything coordinated. And one of my more recent collections I used, or pieces I used from, I think it was after Black Friday, and I just got a miscellaneous amount of stuff to use together. The little Rebecca tags, like the rubber charms, I had 3 left over in this color scheme, and I thought they were perfect because there were two of them that had flowers on them and one of them that said love, and they were all in the color scheme. And I just felt like it was the most perfect coincidence. I was really beat up about not using these rubber tags when I used this collection, but I knew I'd get them used up eventually, and here we are. They were the perfect finishing touch for this layout. So I am threading them with some I don't even know if you could call it twine, but it's this yellow twine that came in my Heidi Swap Carefree, I think it was. It was her little tag, her tag, what am I trying to say? The tags that you could buy to coordinate with the collection came with this yellow twine that I did not really end up finishing when I used the collection. So I had leftover, and it was skinny enough to thread through these little tags, and it was in my color scheme, so that's what I decided to do. And I'm sticking these rubber embellishment pieces down with my Tombow Mono Multi. I've used other glues in the past and they end up not sticking, but I feel like this one always does the job. So that was my finishing touch, and now I think it's done. I like how this one turned out. It's way different than the other two, and it's multicolored. Used pretty much all scraps. So I'm happy. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.